Hi everyone, and welcome to session number 4 on how to use Scratch. Today we're going to look at taking a quiz we made last session, adding some more questions to it, but also adding a point system. Now this point system will award the user a point if they get the question correct, and at the end of the quiz will tell the user how many points they received. I would like you to think of another 2 maths questions that you would like to ask the user. Now write them down on a piece of paper with your answers, as we're going to need them shortly. Try to make them challenging and somewhat difficult, as it's a maths quiz after all. You may need to pause the video for a short time whilst you write these down. Now that we have our questions noted down, let's head into Scratch. In the main coding area, you can see my code from the last session. Now the first thing we need to do is create more questions, and we're going to do this by duplicating sections of our code. Right click the Ask block and select Duplicate from the menu. You will now see that the Ask block and all the blocks beneath it will have been copied and they're attached to your cursor. Don't attach these code blocks just yet, instead place them off to the side. We're going to change some values first. In the Ask block of our duplicated code, we need to ask one of our new maths questions we wrote down at the start and enter this in the input box. I'm going to put one of my maths questions in here, but yours will be different. My question is, what is 10 divided by 2? Also, not forgetting to add to the end, please enter your answer below. In the equals block, I need to enter the answer to the question. So what is 10 divided by 2? Well, the answer is 5 for my question, so that's what I put in the input box. Again, your question and answer will be different. With our input boxes now complete, we're going to attach these duplicated blocks to the rest of our code. Click on the Ask block and hold your mouse button down. Now this should pick up all of our code blocks, so you can move and attach these to the bottom of our existing code. We're going to add one more question for our quiz, so this time we're going to right click on the second Ask block and select Duplicate from the menu. With these blocks now duplicated, we're going to place these off to the side again like this. Now it's time to enter the second question and answer that we noted down at the start. For my third and final question, I'm going to ask, what is 11 multiplied by 5? Again, add in the instruction at the end, please enter your answer below. Also, don't forget to enter the answer to your question in the equals block. For my question, 11 multiplied by 5 is 55, so I enter that in the box here. Don't forget this is the answer to your second question, the one that you wrote down at the start. Click on the Ask block and hold your mouse button down again and drag this group of code blocks to the rest of our code. It should snap to the bottom. We now have 3 questions in our quiz. I'm going to click on the green flag and run mine. So, what is 2 multiplied by 2? Well, that answers 4. So we got that one correct. Next question. What is 10 divided by 2? Well, that's 5, so I'll type 5 and press enter. Now on the last question, I'm going to get it wrong on purpose. So what is 11 multiplied by 5? Well, we know the answer is 55, but I'm going to enter 10 in the answer box. Now I'm hoping the character will tell me that I've got the question incorrect. And they did, so it's working as we expected. Wouldn't it be good if the character told us how many of the questions we got correct? Before we look at adding that, I need to talk to you about a thing called variables. Now variables are a bit like boxes that we can store information in. For our quiz, we're going to store how many points a user has. Let's start by putting 0 in our variable, as the user starts the quiz with no points at all. We can also give our box or variable a name, so I'm going to call mine points. Now let's imagine our user just got a question correct. We're going to take the number that we have in our variable, which is 0, and add 1 to it. And then we're going to store the new point value back inside of our variable. Let's look at creating a variable so we can start keeping track of the user's points. In the categories, choose the variables section and at the top select Make a Variable. In this window, we're going to type in points, which is going to be the name of our variable, and we'll click OK. In the top left hand corner of our output window, you can now see our variable called points being displayed. We want to make sure every time a user clicks on the green flag, the points are reset to 0. So in the variables section, which should still be open, click and drag the Set My Variable to 0 block just beneath the green flag in the main coding area. Click the drop down list on the block we've just placed in our code and select our points variable. The code block should now look like mine and say set points to 0. Now that we have our block to reset the points each time the game is restarted, we now need to think about what block to use to increase the points each time that the user gets the answer correct. There's a block in the variable category called change my variable by 1, and we can get this to change our points variable by using the drop down list and selecting points. Before we use this block though, let's have a look at our code. So we start our program by clicking the green flag and we immediately set the points to 0. From there we ask the user our first question. Now if they get it right, we get the character to tell them that they've got it correct and give them a point. So we need to put a change points by 1 block just below this message. However, if the user gets the question incorrect, the character will say that they've got it wrong and won't award a point, so we don't need a variable block in here. We need to put another change points by 1 block in this part of the code for when the user gets the second question correct. And we'll put another in this part as well for the third question. We're going to run our code, but before we do, I would like to draw your attention to the points display that we have in our output window. If you can't see this in your Scratch software, then go to the variable category and click the little tick box next to the point block we created. And now we'll click the green flag. We're going to enter the correct answers for all of our questions to make sure that the points counter is working correctly. So on question 1, put in your answer and press enter. You'll see that you got the question correct and the points display increases by 1. Now put the answer in for question 2, press enter, and you'll see that the points box increases by 1 again. Finally, do the same with question 3 and you'll see that the points increase again. Now that we've answered all the questions and the program has finished, it would be nice for the character to tell the user how many points they received. Go to the looks category and drag a say hello for 2 seconds block to the main coding area and snap it to the bottom of your code. Again, drag another one of the code blocks and snap it to the bottom of the code also. In our first say block, we're going to type the number of points you received and set the time to 4 seconds. In the second block, we want the character to read out the number that is stored in our points variable. So go to the variable category on the left hand side and drag our points variable block into the input box like so, and also don't forget to set the time to 4 seconds as well. Now if we run the code again and answer all the questions correctly, we can see that our points are still changing each time. However, this time, after we finish the final question, the character tells us how many points we scored in the quiz. If we get any of the questions incorrect, your points variable should not increase. You will need to do some testing, checking questions with correct and incorrect answers to see how it affects the points variable. If you would like to set yourself an additional challenge, how about adding more questions like we did earlier in this session? Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed creating your quiz, and I highly recommend showing it to other people to see how well they do and how many points they can get.